Everybody, Uneducated Economist here. Let's get the dice going for you guys. All right. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the lumber industry. I know how much you guys love these lumber update videos. By discussing the lumber update video, or discussing lumber in these lumber update videos, we get a better understanding of what has taken place not only within the economy, but especially within the new construction market. The demand for lumber, and especially things like plywood or OSB, can be a real good indication of where the demand for lumber, or at least the new construction, is when it comes to advancing the economy, providing more homes for people, showing signs of positivity. Right? That comes from the demand for lumber being elevated. We can see that that's a positive sign going into the economy. However, when we see it going the opposite, when the demand for lumber or the demand for plywood starts to fall, this is showing a bad sign in the economy as there's less activity taking place. Now, when you think about how it is that a new house gets started, like the idea of starting a new home isn't something that happens instantaneously. Like all of a sudden interest rates got better today, so tomorrow they're going to start building a house. It doesn't work like that. From the time that you decide that you're going to start building a home to the time that it actually comes into fruition can be anywhere from 6 months to a year. Some people might be able to do it quicker than that, but for the most part, there's time lag that takes place from the time you decide to the time that you're actually going into new construction. So when you're seeing the demand for building materials falling, this is a sign that there is not a lot of new construction starting. Right? It's deteriorating. It's the lack of new starts that is happening out there that is showing the signs of deterioration, and the lack of the demand for the OSB or plywood or lumber. Listen to this. A lot of you know that I get an email once a week that kind of gives me an idea of what's taking place within the economy or within the different regions throughout the country. It has this to say about OSB. Now, for those of you not familiar with OSB, it stands for Oriented Strand Board. It's a 4x8 sheet, or I guess it can come in other sizes, but generally it's 4x8 sheet used for sheathing. So when you think about a new house being built, you got like the 2x4s, the 2x6s. This is like the skeleton of the house, and then the OSB or the plywood is the sheathing. It's like the skin that goes on the outside before all the siding, doors, windows, stuff like that goes in. So major component to the new construction industry, especially down in the southern part of the United States. That's where OSB is a lot more popular. It is a water sensitive product, so up here in the Pacific Northwest, we have a tendency to use a lot more plywood than OSB, but OSB is a very popular product up here, and we do sell it as well. But it goes on to say this: OSB continues to plod along at the same lethargic pace as it has for the past month or so, right? Demand being low. The lack of urgency is concerning. Even though there has been some bright spots in the economic news pertaining to home sales and consumer confidence levels, we continue to hear rumblings about production curtailments, but no announcements yet. Now, this is something that I have experienced quite a bit here in the lumber industry, being in the retail end of things, is seeing the mill curtailments over the last year, even year and a half now, has depleted a lot of the inventory that is out there. So when it goes to try and find lumber, a lot of times, it's pretty easy to get. You call up your supplier, the supplier's like, yeah, no problem, we'll get it on the next truck coming down to you. But occasionally you end up hearing, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait till next week. We have a gap in our inventory in which that we are not able to sell you this particular size unit or whatever it is that I was looking for at the time. That's happened. Now, it's not a major problem. Like, it wasn't so prevalent within the industry that I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But it did happen, and it was a sign that there was gap in inventory due to the mill curtailments that have been taking place. Let's read a little bit more on this. Fir plywood found its bottom a few weeks ago, but has since rebounded to some signs of softness in this week. Most mills are a week out, meaning by the time you order to the time you're actually going to receive it is about a week, and some still showing some signs of prompt units, meaning like you don't have to wait a week, they'll ship it out almost immediately. Prices have stabilized, and some down by 5 to 15 over. Most mills are out prospecting for orders once again. So it's showing signs that there is stress, right? Now, I know it doesn't sound very concerning by the words there, But when you think about being able to order and have that delivery or have that order come prompt, like almost immediately, is showing that they don't have a big order file. Now, order files is how many orders they have in the system that they have to fill. And when order files start pushing out to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, this is huge demand happening within the industry. When you have prompt delivery or a week, that's not a lot of demand, right? That's showing low demand and plenty of inventory and plenty of production to fill the demand, right? And so that's another sign of it, that the lack of demand being in the industry right now is concerning, right? We're in the summer, we're in June. This is the time that the demand for building materials should be increasing and not having mills going, oh man, we got prompt delivery, or even within a week. Southern yellow pine, it felt like mills took a break on increasing prices this week and continued to be solid two-tiered market on sheathings, especially on thick panels. This is in the southern yellow pine plywood market too. Basically saying that the thick plywoods are not as prevalent as the half-inch, right? Several producers aren't quoting thick panels. See, this is another sign that the demand for the half-inch, which is the higher, what is it? The one that's in more demand is the half-inch. It's used more for sheathing, for roofing. The 3/4 inch, although very popular within the new construction market, is generally used in areas of like flooring, maybe in some heavier sheeted walls that need like that extra sheathing strength to it or something like that, but not nearly as popular as the half-inch. So when mills are producing, they're producing what is selling. They're produced the half-inch because they're, you know, almost guaranteed to sell. The 3/4, the thicker panels, not so much, right? So they back off on that production. That's a sign of it taking place right there. Let's see here. Western spruce pine fir, demand for 2x4 allowed for a modest gain in around 7 per thousand, which isn't much, while 2x6 rose by 3 per thousand. So a 7 per thousand increase is not much. That is pretty insignificant, right? But it does show that the Western spruce pine fir had an increase in the demand for 2x4, which I would assume that being the time of year, that would be somewhat understandable, but it doesn't look like it's such a big demand that it threw the prices way off, you know, way up there. It just barely increased them at all. So I can't imagine it being that much demand. Futures, July contract traded in a tight range this week, down nearly 20 from last week. So again, the prices on futures had come down a bit. And this is a little old, so I think the prices had actually moved up after this email was sent. Let's see, anything else good in here? Let's see, some mills are available for immediate shipping of southern yellow pine, which is great value as a July discount to cash. Huh. So it looks like there's a futures contract out there that's doing pretty good for July, and I'm thinking that's in the southern yellow pine market. Anyway, reading through this, it doesn't sound... Hold on here. Let me read down. In the Eastern SPF, 2x4 104s are leading the way, although print was flat, so the prices were flat across it. This trim had a healthy trading week with more buyers than sellers. So it looks like there was a little bit of increase in the eastern part of the country, which I would imagine there's a lot more construction happening over there. 2x4 16s and 9-foot studs tend to lead the way for the market indicators. They do. You got to think 2x4 16-foot is probably the most popular plate stock that you could buy. 16-foot long. Most rooms are, you know, within 16 feet. So 2x4 plate stock, meaning like, you know, the top and the bottom of the wall with the studs in between it. 9-foot studs being very popular, so I would imagine those two, and like what it's saying here, are leading the way from the indicators, showing some increase in the demand. And again, this is on the eastern part of the United States, so that would make a lot more sense than here on the western side, which our construction market is not doing nearly as well as the eastern side. 2x6 hasn't run away, but it feels like we are close to flipping the supply-demand equilibrium, right? So it looks like this inventory has dropped enough and the demand is starting to increase that it would start moving those prices. The lumber market is hardly I'm sorry. The lumber market is a herd mentality. Producers follow the highest profitable item, produce it, and then switch gears to another SKU. 2x6 feels like it's drying up and will soon not be available, which causes price hikes. Boom, right there, right? And that's in the eastern part. So if you're on the eastern side of the United States, I would be concerned about that 2x6 going into the future, and that you very well could find that if the demand continues to pace upward, right, especially on that eastern side, then you can imagine that the 2x6s are most likely going to increase as well, considering, right, that the production of it is low. Even in this email, they're suggesting the idea of a 2x6 drying up and creating price hikes. Again, being well aware of this ahead of time is going to give you the best possible position for yourself. Those who are not interested in buying lumber in the future would probably look at this information and be like, no big deal. But it is such an indicator. It is such an indication of what has taken place within the economy that everybody should be following lumber. Even if you're not interested in building a house or buying lumber or trading the futures or anything like that, being aware of what has taken place within the lumber industry is going to give you a much better idea of what has taken place within the economy in general. All right. Is there anything else good in here? Sorry, I hadn't read this yet before I came out here, and I didn't want to just... I should have perused it a little bit. All right. The overall tone is becoming more positive as mills have reported steady sales. This is in the western species of dry dimension. Have reported steady sales over the past couple of weeks. We are experiencing a little less activity this week due to the holiday. This was last week's email, but do expect things to pick up as people make their way back into the office over the next week or so. Here we go. Straight 16-foot loads are becoming very difficult to source in any given width. Very, very informative right there, right? 16-foot, like a lot of times the order will be for nothing but 16-foot boards, right? So here you order a truck from the mill, every single unit is a 16-footer. Again, probably the most popular size lumber that you can buy out there, and they're becoming less available in all widths, it's saying. 2x4/8s continue to be a very hot item on the open market. Studs numbers are slightly up, with 104 seeing the most action. Limited offerings on 2x10, especially in the KD Doug fir. Mills inventories are not as vast as some are led to believe right now. See, again, right, this is something that I have been trying to report on time and time again, is that I have seen the gaps in inventory. This is not a place, there is no place that you can go to find that information, unless maybe you are, subscribed to Madison's Lumber Reporter or Random Links or something of that nature. There's really no place on the internet or anywhere else that you can go to see the inventory levels. You have to know somebody within the industry, right? And this is, again, why I've been reporting on it for so long. And I know a lot of people don't give it any credit, right? They're like, you're just some dude sitting in a Suburban, what do you know? I've been calling this stuff out for years, and I've been trying to share it with you, and this is the information that you need to know about, right? Once you understand it in this fashion, it becomes a lot easier to be making those decisions, especially on future projects. Most people were concerned about lumber prices moving up on account of tariffs. You know how many reports, articles came out misguiding the people into believing that there was going to be elevated lumber prices because of some tariff that was going to be inflicted upon Canada? Did that manifest itself into reality? Absolutely not. Nothing could be further from the truth. However, here on this channel, I tried to keep the calm. I said, be cool about it. Wait for these tariffs to actually kick in. We don't have any idea on what it is that's happening out there, and I would be very surprised to find that any impact taken place to the lumber market here in the United States on account of what has taken place in Canada. Right? Not like the tariffs. We had Canadian mills shutting down production in a massive proportion just a few years ago. 2019 was devastating for the mills. Most people have no idea on how painful of an experience it was for most of these mill operations. The curtailments, depletions, straight up shutdowns, it was running so prevalent through 2019 that if you had been following the industry like I was trying to report on, you would have seen it just as clearly as I did, that the production of lumber had pretty much become non-existent. The inventory levels were depleted, COVID kicked in, more mill curtailments and shutdowns, stimulus checks, inelastic demand picked up, wiped out the inventory, and prices shot to the moon. This is something that I had reported on time and time again. So here I am reporting again, showing you signs of inventory depletions and how it's happened over the last 6, 7, 8 months, even a year or more. How these inventory levels are, or the gap in inventory is now being reported on. If we come into a situation in which the demand for lumber was to increase, I don't believe that there is a lot of production or inventory available to meet a significant demand. However, I don't see where the significant demand would come from. The demand for lumber is down. New home builders are not excited about elevated interest rates and the lack of buyer traffic. You know, you have fear, uncertainty, and doubt that runs so prevalent through this economy right now, it makes it very difficult to understand what it is that you need to do in order to position yourself appropriately. I think about every single time I open up the news and I see another report of dysfunction that is happening within the administration, within the economy, within the banking industry itself. When I think about that dysfunction and how it is that people react to it or feel about it, how it pushes the elevated inflation expectations, how it slows this economy down in a massive way, as people have no idea on what it is that they need to do. Should they save? Should they invest? Should they start the build? Should they buy that house? Do they need to switch jobs? Should they hold on? It's so massive, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And so I think about this. Is it being pushed on purpose? I mean, even think about it right now. We have this situation with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, best friends forever, who are now fighting. Makes me wonder, what are they doing? Are they trying to distract us from some other reality that's happening out there as we look and focus in on two people who are calling each other out for idiots? In fact, you know, you think about it, you got Powell, you got Trump, you got Musk, and you have all these three guys out there calling each other out for being stupid, right? And this is essentially our leadership? Like, I don't look at it as leadership, but a lot of people were looking at Musk as a leader. I didn't see it. I mean, wasn't this the same dude who threw a fascist salute at Donald Trump's picture, talking about how awesome of a situation we now face? Wasn't it Trump bragging Musk up about being some awesome dude who knows business and understands it so well that he had to bring him on as an advisor, put him in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency, right? Like, I look at what it is that's happening out there, and then all of a sudden it just blew up. And people are like, oh, they're mad at each other. Look at what's there. They're pointing these fingers at these two guys. And I'm thinking, you know, we got real chaos happening. Okay? I mean, I understand that Trump and Powell and Musk probably had a fight at their slumber party, you know, and now they're all mad at each other. You know, maybe they just need to say, I'm sorry. You know, have you ever thought maybe they just need to sit down and talk it out a little bit and apologize for trying to cheat at Monopoly or spending the entire time looking at the porn on the internet? Man, I mean, I can't imagine what their slumber party would be like. Musk would be like bouncing a Super Ball off of every flat surface, trying to get it to ricochet off of many flat surfaces as he could. That's the type of mentality that I believe is taking place within the administration right now. When I was a kid, here's something. I don't know why I'm going off on this. When I was a kid, I used to look at politicians and the news and, you know, all this leadership stuff, right, that's out there, the guidance that's happening. And I looked at these people like super adults. Right? I mean, I was a kid, I didn't know anything, but I looked at them as super adults. I mean, there was adults around me, and they would be loud and drinking and barbecues and boisterous and, you know, joking around and stuff. But when I would look at the news, when I would look at the politicians, they were very serious and very straightforward and, you know, very what would I say, like, you know, serious about the position that they held. And this is the way I felt about it. Right? So as a kid, I'm looking at this thinking, man, these people are like super adults. Like they don't screw around. Right? Like I look at the adults in my life and they kind of screw around, but these guys, no, they're very serious. But now I look at the administration and like I look at that and I think to myself, man, it is like the worst dysfunctional family in the entire world. I have no confidence in this whatsoever. Like, the confidence that I have is that they're going to spread even more fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Because that's the only thing they seem to be really good at. The idea that they are somehow in a position in which that they are very smart about what it is that they are doing. That they are very deliberate in how it is that they are going to perform the task of being able to be the best, most appropriate nation in the entire world. Nah, like that doesn't seem to be the case. Right? No, I ain't talking to him. He's mean. Right? That's like literally like the feeling that I think comes from these people. I ain't talking to him. He's a jerk. Yeah, like literally these are the people who are in charge of us, who are in charge of the economy, in charge of the banking system. That's the scariest part to me. Is like I cannot find any serious situation within this government, within the banking system, within the politicians that gives me the confidence to say, man, I think you guys are doing it. Like you guys are really trying. I just don't see it. All right, let's go check out that super chat real quick. Dude, seriously, I love the name. So it's a good time to build your own house. I think so. I mean, you think about it right now, you have building permits coming down. You have starts that are coming down. New home builders are like, you know, very concerned. They're like, oh man, it's a bad time. You build a product right now, think about it. You're the only one who's building. Like everybody else is like, no, I don't want to do it. But you're going to build one, like produce something that nobody else is doing. Yeah, like, I mean, I look at it and I think to the concerns about it. If I start this house today, will I be able to sell it for what I believe I can going into the future? Or is the price going to fall? Now, a lot of people, including the home builders, feel that the price is going to fall. That's why they're not starting new homes. If they thought the price was going to increase, they would be starting new homes. But if you are going to build a product that is going to sell less in the future than what you had anticipated today, then you're probably not going to be very excited about starting a home. That's the situation we now face. But is the reality of the situation that? I mean, I understand that home prices have come down. Even my area has come down like a significant amount. It's still quite elevated. I mean, you think about it, it's not like home prices have come down so much that the median income can now afford the median house price. A good job sucks. It doesn't work. It ain't gonna make it. It's because the homes aren't necessarily going to the working class individual anymore. They're going to investment. They're going to the rich elitists. They're going to the property owners out there who are then renting it out to everybody else, because that's the economy we are now facing today. Understanding the Cantillon effect really simplifies all that. Most people want to blame it on politicians, blame it on greed, blame it on manipulation, blame it on all kinds of stuff, and that's fine. There's plenty of blame to go around. But knowing that it's an underlying economic force that has now created the situation that we are now facing, there's nothing you can do to really change it. I mean, you can try and vote for that magic dude who's going to come in and make everything all wonderful for everybody, and we're all going to be like sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya. Like, I guess it's possible. I don't believe it will be. I mean, I think that's a long shot. But what I do see is more war, more debt, more separation between the rich and the poor, and there's no better sign of it than being a capitalist or a property owner to separate yourself from everybody else. And what do you see taking place out there? The rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting more stressed out about it. When 10% of the people when 10% of the upper class, right? The top 10% do 50% of the consuming. Tell me, how excited are you about participating in this economy? Like, it's very difficult. How is it that an average, everyday, working class dude is going to be able to provide not only a decent way of life for himself, but then be able to save enough to be able to buy into a piece of property in this economy without side hustles, without, your own online business, without working multiple jobs? I don't know how it's going to happen, because the separation is only going to get worse. All right, Trump is freeing Elon up to go back to polite society. I suppose it would be a certain cognitive dissonance if Elon took anything but a disfavorable view of the big, beautiful bill. I don't know. I mean, to me, them two fighting creates the fear, uncertainty, and doubt within the economy that then pushes the elevated inflation expectation or the fear of recession or whatever it is that they want to try and manipulate into the behavior of the people. You think about it, like there was a time when our nation tried to bring confidence. They tried to have, it was just like, don't ask what your country can do for you, right? You remember the attempt to try and bring some kind of pride, right? I mean, I would believe that back in the day when I was a kid, I honestly thought, right, that the President of the United States would try to show some pride. Not only for the country, for the people, for the administration, like everybody within the administration, try to show pride for this. I don't know where that is. I don't see it. I don't see respect. I don't see, being, I don't even see like the idea of being patriotic. I don't see any of that stuff. What I see is a bunch of noise. I see a bunch of accusations. I see a bunch of superficial attempts to try and make it better for the working class individual. I don't see anything of benefit. I don't at all. Like literally, I cannot see it coming from them. Like maybe other people give it that meaning where they do see it. I don't. All right. I didn't see it. I haven't seen it for many years. Essentially since the great financial crisis. After that, it has been a game of saving the too big to fail, saving the elite, saving the banking system, and the working class individual. And you're not so much important anymore. And that's sad. There was a time when this country was very prideful of the working class individual, the manufacturing base that we had, the highest standard of living, one income producing enough for the entire household. Those days, long gone, and they will not return. People are stuck on an idea that it can come back. Well, those people don't understand the underlying economic forces that are at play. And I wish it would. Like, I really honestly would love to be the main, breadwinner for the household. My wife can stay home. She wouldn't have to go to work. I'd be able to provide for the entire family and all the vacations and all the college tuitions and all that other stuff. I would love to share in that experience. I'm doing the best I can, but it ain't going to happen like that. Man, I got to work my day job. I got to work YouTube. I got to work side hustles. My wife has to work. We do live in one of the most expensive places in the entire nation, but it's worth it, right? And it's very, very, very difficult. People say, man, you drive a Suburban around? How are we supposed to give you any kind of respect if that's the old vehicle you're driving? I'm like, sorry, guys, I can't drive a new vehicle. I'm trying to be a property owner. I'm trying to be the capitalist. I can't buy a new car. That's a luxurious experience that will send you down into the pits of despair. So much construction happening around here. It's weird. It's all commercial and not a lot of residential. And like that noise you hear, they're working on the Maritime Museum right now. Big, beautiful bill phases out EV vehicles. Taxi. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. I'm not trying to discredit you, Tom Flo. I mean, I really appreciate the comment and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, we'll find out what really ends up taking place, you know? All right, exactly. Someone told me to buy a new car yesterday. I'm like, nope. Yeah. No. Hell no. I mean, if you understand the Cantillon effect, you would know that even if you have the money, buying into the luxurious experience is setting yourself up for failure, and it's setting up the other people around you for failure as well. And I know for most people out there, that is a heartbreaking thing to hear, because they worked hard for their money and they really want to enjoy their money, and it's not out of human nature to want that in your life. I worked hard, I saved, I want to enjoy the new money. The moment that you step into a luxurious experience, it begins the deterioration. And it's an unfortunate consequence of the natural economic forces. Knowing that if you become an industrious person, an industrious nation, an industrious company, it doesn't matter, right? Individual, company, county, country, it doesn't matter. It all goes down the same way. You become an industrious person, you figured out a product, a service, something that you can sell, and you start getting new income. You increase that income, what do? You're going to enjoy the new income. You increase your standard of living. You want better houses, better cars, better clothing, better food, better view, better music, better everything. And so you start increasing your consumption into better things. This move into the luxurious experience starts driving the prices up. As the prices start to increase, foreign competition starts coming in saying, hey, you know, that stuff you're buying, that you're producing, that's going up in price because you have this added consumption and you got the supply-demand imbalances. Well, foreign production can help you out with that, keep those prices low. May not be as good as what you're making, but it's not bad and it's pretty cheap. How would you like that? And people said, yeah, we'll take that foreign production. You bet. Bring it on over. Bring it on over. And we enjoyed that production of we enjoyed that foreign production. But then we started seeing our domestic manufacturers leave, and we wanted to blame politicians for that. They're like, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you corporations all greedy? Why are you all leaving? And it was like, did you ever think that maybe it's because you enjoyed the luxurious experience of buying foreign production? I mean, just saying. You didn't have to buy that cheap Chinese crap, but you did. Right? And this is the situation we now face, is that people have a problem with it. They say, hey man, politicians should have stopped that from happening. And it was just like, okay, so you have people who became industrious, increase their savings, want to move into luxuries, and now we have to get government to stop that from happening? You know what that looks like? It looks like a boot on the face of humanity. It's like communism. How do you stop it? You can't. This is the natural course of things. We have to understand it in this fashion. This is the cyclical. It's a cyclical thing. So here we are in a position in which that the extreme inequality is now becoming so prevalent within the economy, the pain is unbearable. Why is it my job is not enough anymore? People can't understand it. They don't get it. And so they come out here, they go out on YouTube, they're looking for the answers, and then the uneducated economist says, well, it was because of a luxurious experience that everybody was enjoying from the new money that was coming in, from all the production that we were doing and the increased savings. That luxurious experience is the reason why we are facing the problems today. And people are not willing to accept that. They're like, nah, it's got to be something else. There's got to be something we can do. And I'm thinking, yeah, there is something you can do. Stop buying into luxurious experiences. Stop buying new cars. Drive a 97 Suburban. Put all your extra money, wherever the hell that is, into the house, into stocks and bonds, into investments. Because if you're not trying to separate yourself from the poor, the moment that you get a job, you will be stuck on the bottom side of the wedge. Guaranteed. Almost zero chance of it being anything else other than that. I know it's tough. It's like, I'm not here to try and sugarcoat it for you guys. This is what I've learned. Having been at the absolute worst in my life, to being able to say, man, I can pay my bills on time anytime I want to, the difference in that experience is massive. And I understand exactly what it's like to not have it. To not have enough to be able to go and buy a gallon of milk. I know what that feeling is like. It wasn't that long ago for me. And I understand that a lot of people are going to get upset with some of the things that I've said here in the last 10, 15 minutes, but I'm not here to sugarcoat it. I've sat here and learned monetary policy, learned economic history, learned as much as I possibly could from a working class individual, not from the investor, not from a politician, not from some banker, not from somebody who come from an affluent family. None of that stuff. I'm an average, everyday working class dude who barely graduated high school. And this is what I found out. It's tough. It's tough out there for everybody. I'm thankful I was helped raise by Depression-era born great-grandparents. Yeah, right on. And that gives you a much better understanding instead of this, like, idea of cradle to grave, social safety net type of government. It's not there. Bro, when you bought the Suburban, did you have a deep cleaned on the interior? No. In fact, you could probably see this handle right here is kind of dirty and covered almost with like a mold. Because in Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest, moisture gets into everything. And no, I didn't have it deep clean. I mean, I still probably have the cigarette butts from the last guy who was in here. Why would I change it? And it's part of the character of the vehicle. Total chick magnet. All right. Work will set you free might not have been the entire idea. Instead, maybe work and wise investments will set you free. Absolutely, Justin. Knowing when you know it to that position, I have to be a property owner or I have to be a capitalist. I have to do that, right? Most people look at property owners as mean landlords who are forcing pain and misery upon the people, and then they look at capitalists as being the problem, right? And so even that mindset right there, landlords are bad, capitalists are bad. How is it that your subconscious is then going to give you the ability to then put yourself in the position where you're on the other side of the wedge? It won't. In fact, because that's what you believe, that capitalists are bad and property owners are bad, what will end up happening is you will permanently put yourself on the bottom side of the wedge because the ego wants to prove you right. If you believe that capitalists are bad and property ownership is bad, your ego will prove you right. And you will be on the bottom side of the wedge, suffering in pain and misery, continuing to blame property owners and capitalists. And that's what will happen, All right, what time is it? All right, guys, I got a few more minutes here. Oh, my camera's starting to slide down. Let me roll that back. Okay, get you guys back up, and there you go. Now you're upright. Okay. Capitalism is a cycle. I think Cantillon effect is a cycle, but you can like label it in whatever periods you want inside of that. All right, the worst thing is to live in debt. It's slavery that is hard to get out of. Yeah, and I agree with that. And that's why it's one of the most important things to understand that there's two types of debt. Good debt and bad debt. If you are borrowing money to have a luxurious experience, bad debt. I don't care if it's a new car. I don't care if it's a vacation. I don't care. All right? If you are borrowing money for a luxurious experience, bad debt. If you are borrowing money to have a return on capital investment, good debt. Taking a credit card and going down and buying a bunch of lumber so that you can build a picnic table, right? That picnic table most likely will not provide you with any kind of value unless you sell it. So you have two positions that you can go into. Sure, you get the experience of having the picnic table. It's a great luxurious experience, right? You get to sit down, eat your burger at a table with a seat and all that other stuff, right? But you borrowed money to build that table. If you borrowed money to build the table and then sold it, that's good debt, because then you take that money that you profit, pay back your credit card, and now you have extra money to spend. All right? Luxurious experience and like the same exact item. But what you do with it is going to be the change of whether or not you're going to be a slave or you're going to be in a position of which you're going to get a return on your capital investments. That would probably, I could probably come up with a better analogy than that. All right, the worst thing to live. Okay, we already read that one. I have no idea what Jim is trying to type there. All right, Wayne says, busy day, checking in the show, my love. Right on, brothers. It's great to see you in here, Wayne. All right, I heard what did your wife say about not cleaning the interior? I don't think she's ever been in here yet. Freddie helped me clean it up. Freddie helped me. What did we use? We had some, where are they? There. Oh, no. I had some, oh, they're back there. I had some Armor All, what do they call? Something freshening, protect wipes. I don't know, some kind of wipes or something I was using. Like, I don't understand. Like, why would I want to, like, I'm not trying to, I mean, it is a total chick magnet, so I guess it would probably, like, it'd be nice to clean it up, for the girls. All right, best asset to buy is one that someone else will buy from you or generate income. Yeah, skateboarding isn't a crime, but skating on a picnic table is. Yeah, deep. All right. I see the HLW estimates spiked, peaking in 2022 when inflation expectations peaked at 4% year over year. 1 year inflation expectations appear flat year to date. I don't see evidence of it moving. R-star. Well, I mean, I don't have, well, maybe I do. Oh, I don't have my internet turned on. Last time I checked R-star, it looked like, the R-star chart was coming down. Now, I don't know, maybe I missed that, but I guess there could be moments in time where it flattens out, but for the most part, it's on a downward trajectory, which to me is leading me to believe that the gap between the neutral interest rate and the current Fed funds rate is diminishing. It's like that gap is shrinking. Again, I mean, estimates of R-star, if they're even accurate, I don't know. So maybe you have different information that you're looking at that'll give you a different idea of what it is that's happening out there. But at least that's the impression that I'm getting from it. And the more that we push fear, uncertainty, and doubt, especially when it comes to tariffs and the impact from tariffs, that's going to elevate the inflation inflation expectation even more, continuing to push that neutral interest rate ever higher. Right? What time is it? Okay, guys, I'm going to have to call it quits here. All right. Hemorrhoid wipes work great on the dashboard. Huh, interesting. I'm not sure why that would be, but okay. Work on things that pay you directly. Do not work for others. Make your own work. Yeah, and I mean, I guess there's a lot of truth to say inside of that, like, work for yourself and, be your own boss kind of thing. And I would agree with that, except I also have a day job, which is awesome, right? You think about it, it's like, I don't have to come up with business. I mean, I do in some way, like I do sales for a living, so I have to do that kind of drumming up a business. But I don't really have to try and keep the store open. I don't have to figure out the bills. I just do my job and then I go home, right? And I don't think about the store anymore. I just think about, my job while I'm there. I get paid vacations. I get health insurance for me and the whole family. I get a retirement that is, employer contributed to. Like, these few things, those are awesome. Not that I expect that I'm going to get it at the end of it, but I also contribute into Social Security. So there could be a time in which that I get a Social Security payment from it as well. So being in that sort of mindset with it, I think is not a bad idea, right? Pays my bills. Like, I pay my bills, using my day job. If I want anything else in my life, I have to go out and work for it. I have to do something extra for it. And that's really where doing the YouTube, doing the side hustles, doing everything that I do is to try and bring up that extra so that I can have a decent life for my family, you know, so that they don't have to eat peanut butter and honey sandwiches every day for lunch. We can do other things with our life to enjoy our experience within the household. Like driving a cheap truck gives me the ability to take my family to go and visit places, go to museums, or go to different places around the state to go and visit, to get that experience for the kids instead of just being locked up all summer. So understanding it in this fashion, like knowing how it is that you are working for that money. Like a lot of people will just believe working for another person is a bad thing. It's not, right? I mean, it is if you give it meaning that way, but it's not a bad thing. And like I said, I mean, I got all these benefits that come from it. So now everything that I make that is extra, again, I can contribute to becoming that property owner, becoming the capitalist, being able to share experiences with my family so that they have decent memories. Like, I like having the day job. But if I had enough money to do it on my own, or if I felt like, you know, the desire to push it that way, then I could probably do everything I wanted to on my own. Again, I think about how much time that might take away from my family. That's very important to me. One of the reasons why I like this day job is because it gives me time with my family. Every single day after work and every single weekend I get to spend with them. However, if I was doing something that took me away from the family, where I'd have to go travel around or do something of that nature, I don't find that to be very valuable. In fact, I find that to be deteriorating. Like, I would not want that. I want to be with my family. In fact, I want to do things to spend even more time with them. Right? And that's how I look at it. Once my kids are grown, moved out of the house, I'll have a whole different mentality towards it. And this is another reason why everybody has to have their own economy and judge it for themselves. Alrighty guys, I would love to keep going, but I have got to go back to work. Is there an example in history of an economy superpower not following Cantillon effect nightmare? I mean, not that I know of. The U.S. essentially didn't follow the Cantillon nightmare when they severed itself from the gold standard, but it's only a matter of time before the underlying economic force takes hold and destroys the United States as well, the United States economy. The only difference that's being in it is that the Cantillon effect is really based on a gold standard in which that the limited amount of currency will definitely take place, right? You can only have, there's only so much gold in existence, and once you have acquired as much as you're going to get from everybody, you're not going to get any more because there's literally no more to get. However, in a fiat currency, you can continue to print the money. The problem is that you don't always have value to the money. So the continuation of the printing of money will eventually destroy the currency itself. How far out that is anybody's guess. A lot of people said that it would have already happened by now. I know, I was one of them after the great financial crisis who was saying that the dollar would have been done by now. When I realized that my understanding of what was happening at the time was very different from what it is that I understand today, it makes a lot of sense on why it is that I believe that a hyperinflation was going to destroy the dollar, but yet it didn't happen. Now I get why. It was the same reason why I was able to call out lumber at its all-time high, saying it's going to go back to its normal price. And nobody's going to be able to explain it. It's because the money printer doesn't cause inflation. And I know that, again, most people will roll their eyes when they hear that, but the people who are rolling their eyes right now cannot explain quantitative easing 1, 2, 3, and 4, which took the Fed's balance sheet of $850 billion to over $4.5 trillion and failed to produce the inflationary scenario they were looking for. If you can't explain why, then money printer is not the reason why we had inflation, because we would have seen it then. So important to understand this. See, the Cantillon effect really is still taking place. When new money pours in, whether it's from the money printer, from production of manufacturing base, you know, you produce a bunch of stuff, you sell it out there to the world, and they send you the money, whether you mine it yourself, however you get that new money in, when the new money comes in, the people who have first access to it, they spend it at face value. It doesn't matter if it's being produced by the central bank, if it's coming out of a mine, if it's coming from production. Right? It doesn't matter. The people who have first access to it will spend it at face value. The more they spend it, or the people who get that from the first spending of it, they will increase their spending. All this increased spending is the consumption that is now moving up. If the consumption elevates, the supply diminishes, prices move up, the people at the end of the line, they suffer the most from this. This is the reason why we have such massive inequality right now within the economy. And it's probably going to get worse. The inequality is, in fact, I know it's going to get worse, because anything other than the injection of new money coming into the system means pain and misery for everybody, including the people who are in charge. So they're not going to do that. They're not going to do it to themselves. And any new money that comes in will give them more power, separate us more away from them, and the problems of inequality will get worse. There's really nothing that can be done. And then the moment that the new money turns off, whether it's from a collapse of the value of the currency itself, or, you know, the lack of confidence, the lack of trust, or whatever happens in there, once the new money stops coming in, everything falls into poverty and misery. And the United States is not immune to this. Right? It's only a matter of time. So you think about it, like, if you can go into negative interest rates, if you can go into cashless societies, you know, digital currency, like, being on its way, it's, to me, I don't see it ending. I see the problem getting worse. The problem of inequality. That's why I keep saying it over and over again. It is critically important to become a capitalist or property owner. If you're not doing that, you're going to be on the bottom side of the wedge. It is too far gone for your day job to be enough. A good job sucks. It's just not enough. Alrighty, guys. I got to go. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.